Hey there, my name is Anthony Romano, and I'm going to tell you about how keto is changing bodybuilding. So if you click this video, you probably heard about the ketogenic diet and using it for weight loss, fat loss, especially in bodybuilding cutting routines. I'm a big fan of using keto as a bodybuilding cut, and that's actually where I like to kind of differentiate myself on YouTube here, is I like to mix the keto dieting and the bodybuilding. However, when it comes to a lot of the new research, not a lot of people are too knowledgeable on how to actually mix the two. And it is a bit complicated. However, I'm going to try to explain that here. So this video is going to be all about keto and bodybuilding, and to be clear, I don't recommend it for bulking up on a bodybuilding program. However, I do recommend it for cutting down, and I actually do think it's the best way 1000% to cut for many benefits, but one of which being that you can actually, in my experience, if you do it properly and in the healthiest way possible, you can increase your strength, increase your muscle size very subtly, and but significantly, at the same time as increasing your overall health of your body. So there's not many other cutting diets that allow you to do that, and there's not many cutting diets that have even been experimented on in such a way with those goals in mind. But I think keto is kind of bridging the gap to doing that, and I'll explain. So there's a few things necessary for muscle growth. There's obviously a couple requirements that are necessary. You need to have enough energy, you need to have enough stimulus, so overload, right, in your training. That a lot of those other things separate from the diet need to be in place. However, keto can balance out some of those things and actually make up for some of the requirements. So you're going to need energy, you're going to need adequate stimulus, of course adequate rest, but a lot of people tell you that you can't build muscle or strength on a ketogenic diet because you don't have carbs. You don't need carbs to stimulate protein synthesis, and you actually don't need carbs in order to lean down in a healthy way. It's actually probably, in my opinion, better, or at least easier, to be healthy while doing so without carbs and cutting at the same time. So if your goal is to be healthy and cut at the same time, keto is one of the best ways because it allows you to get most of the fat soluble vitamins, most of your dietary needs, at the same time as having adequate energy and at the same time as prioritizing fat loss. So for those of you who weren't aware of that with keto and cutting, that is three of the main points of why it's the best to marry the health aspect and the fat loss aspect while maintaining your muscle and energy and lifestyle. So I have this kind of broken down here in a little diagram in my notes here, but a lot of people will say, so if you're not familiar with any of this, maybe watch my other videos, get caught up if you're interested in this diet. A lot of people say you need carbs. You don't need carbs to build muscle. You don't even necessarily need a caloric surplus. Now, with weight loss and weight gain, calories are always the primary driver of both weight loss and weight gain. However, they're not the only drivers of both of those things. Because as we know, if you were to decide to eat 1,000 calories over your maintenance, but most of it's coming from sugar, your body composition is going to look different than somebody who is eating 1,000 calories over their maintenance, getting it mostly from protein. So we know that your macro and micro composition of what you're eating matters in terms of your body composition when we're going over the calories, but everyone wants to deny that going under your calories with certain macros is always going to be the same. It's not. If your 1,000 calorie deficit looks completely different than somebody else's, you're going to get a different result. And even though you're going to get most of the same weight loss results from the actual calorie deficit, there's other factors that do play more detailed roles. They're not going to be the 80% of the fat loss, which is going to come from the calorie deficit or calorie surplus, but they are going to play that 20% out and change your body composition accordingly. So with muscle gain, all you need is a positive nitrogen balance, which means basically more protein, more nitrogen in your body than what you're expending. So basically that can be covered by adequate protein. However, you're going to want to be particular about what your proteins are coming from. In my opinion, muscle building is more about what type of amino acids and what type of proteins you're getting rather than total volume of protein. So example, for muscle building and cutting, leucine is always going to be the most protein synthesis stimulating amino acid. So what that means is basically leucine has been shown to increase protein synthesis just as much as insulin would, if not more, from what I recall from many studies. So leucine is one of the top quality amino acids you should be getting. So yeah, you can supplement with BCAAs because they do have leucine in them as a main ingredient. However, if you're getting your protein from sources like eggs, it's going to be a lot more nutritious than pounding back 3 whey protein shakes every day. So unless that whey protein is really high in leucine, either way, it still would be better to get it with some fat and something to actually help that digest in your body. So when it comes to actually building muscle, people will say, you need more calories. You don't. All you need is a positive nitrogen balance. Of course, I don't recommend to actually bulk up on a keto diet, but I'm preaching here that if you're cutting down, you can actually gain some strength and size at the same time, unlike other cutting plans. So the typical bodybuilder chicken and rice diet with some oatmeal and sweetening in there, right? That's the typical YouTube bodybuilder cut. So when you are actually fat adapted on keto, which takes place after a month or so, maybe more for some people, your body can actually get some of its energy requirements that would be needed for that surplus from its own body, because we have stored body fat, which is basically accessible calories at all times for your body when you're on keto. So it's very complicated and not everybody can do that until they're fat adapted. However, your body is always going to be able to pull for fats for energy, and if you are giving adequate stimulus and so training hard enough, right, strength focus, and the training part I can talk about in another video. If you're training adequately, getting enough protein, quality protein, I'd say leucine, you could even supplement with BCAAs, but if you're getting those, you're getting omega-3s and, a decent amount of fats every day, because fats are going to be very key to create cholesterol and testosterone in your body. You actually need those you need cholesterol in order to make testosterone. And healthy amounts of dietary fat every day, healthy amounts of cholesterol, is actually going to be a very big part in building muscle. So, not a very big part in terms of building muscle, but it's going to facilitate it. So, when it comes to cutting on keto and increasing strength and increasing muscle, you will see significant increases, although very subtly. But the way you're going to have to do it is you're going to have, if you're fat adapted, that's optimal. So, if you've never done a cut before in your life, I recommend deciding now, hey, I'm going to stick with the keto cuts for the next few years of my life, because the more you do it, the better your body's going to get at being fat adapted whenever you call upon it. So for me, I've been doing keto for like 7 years now, and I'm positive that my body is better and better at doing it every year. So for my body, I would probably have an easier time building muscle on keto than somebody who is new to keto and only been fat adapted for like a month. But the point is, if you keep doing this to your body over the years, if you're 20 years old right now or younger, and you decide, every year I'm going to bulk and cut till I get what I want, the results I want physically, basically, if you decide that your cut is always going to be keto, and every year you're going to get fat adapted, you'll be using double the amount half the amount of time that other people will be doing longer bulks for, and you can be getting more out of those cuts. So instead of having half of your year divided up as bulk and a cut, yes, of course, you will experience some strength decrease on a cut, but as far as it comes as making the best long-term play for your bodybuilding goals, if you do a bulk and then a cut with keto and you get fat adapted and you get to the point where your body is very good at using excess energy needs from fat, and you're having great workouts because you're fat adapted now, and your body's able to increase its muscle slightly and keep that strength up, basically every year when you cut, over somebody who is just doing a typical YouTube bodybuilder chicken and rice diet compared to you, every one of those 5 years, you're going to have made more progress than that person, because they're spending half of those years bulk and cutting. So you'll be able to, in the long run of things, the macro play would be to commit to learning keto, commit to getting fat adapted, and your body's going to get better and better at it every single year, and you're going to get more strength gains and more strength retention every cut that you do. So it's a bit of a complicated process, but I'll explain how this actually works in your body. So for exercise in bodybuilding, a lot of the movements, the high intensity movements, are glycogen based, right? And fortunately, when you're fat adapted on keto, your body is more metabolically flexible. So what that means is your body is better able to pull the carbs that it needs, because your muscles still store glycogen in them when you're on keto. Your body is better able to pull the glycogen it needs, only have a certain amount of it, use it more efficiently. So use that for your key movements. It'll use the creatine phosphate system in your body to actually create enough energy even when there aren't any very minimal carbohydrates in your muscles. And it'll use that to also fuel your bigger lifts. And then so that's going to be the big first part of your workout every day. So you're going to hit the big lifts, keep your strength high. You're going to use your stored carbohydrate from that, even though you're eating keto. And you're going to use the creatine phosphate system, which is basically going to be taking effect on your bigger lifts after you've depleted some of those glycogen stores. But from that point afterwards, most of your lifts are going to be, moderate intensity, very anaerobic, very breathing intensive exercises. And of course, you should always be breathing during your lifts, because that's going to get more oxygen in your muscles, get more strength output. But the key point is here, ketones can be used as a source of energy for aerobic activity. So that's activity with breathing. So obviously the most intense like sprints or the most intense lifts, like your 1 rep max, 2 rep max, those are going to be more anaerobic activities. However, when it comes to bodybuilding on keto, if you are doing anaerobic activity in the beginning part, right, using let's say the first 2 reps of your 5 rep set are anaerobic because maybe you breathed a little bit during them, or maybe just it was too much stimulus that your body needed to use those stored carbs. Either way, even if that set is not entirely aerobic, your following training sets are going to be predominantly aerobic activity, and your body can happily use ketones to fuel that. So as far as keeping your strength high, having enough adequate energy, your body is going to be able to keep up bodybuilding on keto. And that is why in the long run of things, if you're doing a whole bodybuilding cut for 3 to 4 months and you're actually able to keep your strength up in the beginning, right, and then keep your endurance up, that's going to stimulate 2 things. It's going to keep your strength. Your muscle is a byproduct of strength. So if you can keep your strength high, you're going to keep that muscle. Also, lactic acid threshold is another key component of keeping your muscle size and increasing muscle size. That's why with powerlifters, they're more so predominant in the overall strength component, more so than the lactic acid threshold. However, bodybuilders who are more doing hypertrophy, more so, not doing 1 rep maxes, they're doing more so the 6 to 12 rep range. That's going to increase your lactic acid threshold, which is going to increase the size of your muscle and, in essence, your endurance. So what I'm saying here is, if you focus on the first half of your workout being strength, the second half of your workout being more so, bodybuilder style hypertrophy, weightlifting with breathing involved, your body, and the intensity is not going to be through the roof because you're not going to be hitting your 1 rep max. What's going to happen is your body is going to keep and slightly increase your muscle size, even if you're in a caloric deficit, because your body's response to endurance activity where it has enough energy, right? Because glucose, carbohydrate-based diets are not going to give you energy through the entirety of that workout. Once you deplete the glycogen stores, you're basically done. And you're not going to have anything extra to push you through the workout, especially when you're towards the most depleted parts of your cut, and which is the most key part to me, because that's where you can keep your most muscle and you have the least amount of fat to lose. So when it comes to bodybuilding with keto on a cut, but keeping your muscle high and perhaps even increasing it slightly, you are going to see the best benefit when you structure your workouts how I explained. So heaviest lifts in the beginning, let the creatine phosphate system and whatever stored glycogen you have take place, handle that first part. Then from there, you're going to hit mostly burnout activities for the rest of the workout. The rest of the workout is going to be basically no rest, like minimal rest, just playing music the whole time and just burning out, and on every set, just filling up the muscles with lactic acid as much as possible. And what that's going to do is it's going to increase your body's what's the word? I'll just say resting tolerance to lactic acid. So your muscle size and muscle strength is going to be adequately maintained, if not increased, by following a workout plan like that. Especially when you're fat adapted, especially when you're increasing your amount of leucine in your body. And that's another thing. Of course, the quality proteins. Another thing is your protein intake throughout the day. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about, going too high. You have to worry about going too low. That's the benefit of keto. When you're cutting, because I don't really recommend keto for bulking, right? It's obviously not the most optimal, but it's probably the most optimal for balancing both bulking and cut. When you're cutting, your energy needs are all going to be supplied through fats, right? There's going to be a small amount that are going to be created through amino acids, and those amino acids are going to be turned into glucose. So the glucose-based exercises that you're doing, those are going to be any extra protein you're eating that will mostly be stored as glycogen in your muscles. It's not going to turn into liver glycogen. It's going to be glycogen that's ready for activity that you're regularly exposing your body to. So if your body is saying, okay, this guy's bench pressing 2 plates every week, there's going to be a reaction to store more carbohydrate in your chest. And basically, any excess protein you're eating isn't going to be a worry, because you're going to burn through the glycogen it creates anyways. And any smaller amount of protein you're consuming, if you ever have a day where you eat too little, don't worry about that either, because that will result in a higher ketone body presence in your blood. And ketones are protein sparing. So basically, you're less likely to burn your own muscle fibers if you have a higher concentration of ketones in your blood. Scientists don't quite know why that is the case right now, but it makes sense because your body's in a state where it's not getting quick digesting energy, and your body's trying to prioritize and be efficient and say, okay, let's only burn the fats. So those are the main ones, right? Additionally, other little subtle points here for you to take away with this video is the effects on your testosterone and hormones. So keto, like I said, is one of the only diets that allows you to eat higher amounts of fat if you'd like to. And typically with higher amounts of omega-3s and higher amounts of just saturated fats in your diet, you're going to have omega-3s, which are very beneficial to muscle building and cell repair, and B, you're also going to have saturated fats, which are going to create more cholesterol and more testosterone in your body. It's not necessarily going to increase your testosterone, because I don't want to promote that, because that's not necessarily the case, right? But it's not going to result in a decrease oftentimes, because even if your calories are low, you're going to have enough of the precursors to create these anabolic hormones. Well, I'm not even going to say anabolic hormones, because every cut is technically catabolic. But you have enough precursors to create these hormones that are going to be essential for muscle building and recomping. So we have the positive nitrogen balance through good good protein sources, right? Leucine is key. It's one of the most protein synthesizing, stimulating amino acids. If you're fat adapted, it's even better. So you're going to have to take the patience with that one. In the beginning of a keto cut, you're not going to be fat adapted, and your brain isn't going to quite know how to use carbs or ketones and fatty acids as fuel efficiently yet. So that is the one caveat to this. You have to commit to this in order to get all the true bodybuilding benefits. This is the area that I want to dive more of the research into, and inspire more people to talk about and read about, because there's lots of studies on keto before people are fat adapted. I want to bring people's attentions to how much benefit fat adapted keto actually does for bodybuilders and other people, of course. But that's kind of the main point of this video. I guarantee you won't find many other videos on YouTube where they talk about this specific topic with people who are fat adapted. Most of the time they'll say, oh no, you have to cycle your carbs, oh no, you have to do XYZ. That's not what I'm saying here. So also train hard enough, and basically that is the whole gist of all this. So get your healthy fats in your diet, get your omega-3s for sure. You'll probably be doing those rather easily when you're just on the nature of this diet. Train hard enough, get good quality protein sources for muscle building purposes and muscle maintaining purposes, predominantly leucine, right? You can have a supplement for this. You can just eat foods that are higher in leucine, like eggs. And also, get fat adapted. So those are the main points. Bodybuilding cuts on keto that allow you to maintain muscle and perhaps even grow it a little bit. Because for myself personally, I've increased a lot of my lifts by 10 pounds on the compounds, an extra 3 reps on my max lifts, an extra 5 pounds on a single-handed curl, things like that. So my lifts are going up personally. Big compound lifts, they're increasing. Of course, it's nothing compared to a bulk, right? And that's why I'm presenting it this way. It's a keto cut that allows you to maintain strength and muscle and perhaps even grow it, because it's not a bulk. I do not recommend this for a bulk. However, you could if you're very patient. Anyways, that's the video. So if you like it, let me know. Send me some other topics if you'd like to hear my opinions. But for this one, this is keto bodybuilding, why it works. Peace.